You're a Jim? Because he don't like that. He said, what you talking about?
He cut the lights on. You're not supposed to. You heard Jim? Huh? He cut the lights on.
The tension between 50 Cent and Jim Jones just hit a crazy new level after Jones took shots at 50's documentary, and 50 didn't stay quiet for a second. He fired right back, putting Jones on blast over unpaid rent drama and even dropping wild footage that had people talking instantly. Then things got real intense when Jones showed up at 50's studio spot, and the whole situation turned messy fast. On February 19th, 2026, Jim Jones pulled up to his Bronx studio, but something felt off right away. Lights were completely out, locks switched, keys useless. No warning, no access, just straight silence. That's when things escalated quick. Jones forced his way inside, kicking the door in like he had no other option, and just hours later, 50 Cent had the footage all over the internet for everyone to see, turning the moment into straight-up public drama. The footage came through crystal clear, a narrow hallway, security cam angle, everything caught on tape. You hear someone in the background saying the lights got cut, and then Jones steps right into frame like it's go time. He walks straight up to the locked door and starts kicking it without hesitation. Hard to hurt Jim, huh? He cut the lights off first door. The tension was thick and that first door didn't budge at all, but Jones wasn't backing down. He kept going, putting force behind every move like he had something to prove. Then it switches angles, and boom! One solid hit and the door flies clean off the hinges. He steps through like it's nothing with two guys right behind him, moving fast and focused. The whole moment didn't even last a minute, but it was enough to shake everything up. By the time people grabbed their phones, the video had already blown up everywhere, twice over, and 50 didn't stop at just posting the clip. He came with receipts too, dropping real paperwork showing a lease that added even more heat to the situation. The paperwork told a brutal story. Termination. Notice addressed to Joseph Jones, NIFC Management LLC, with 2 default notices already stacked up. Both deadlines expired. No room to argue, no way to spin it. One was a 15-day notice dated January 5th, tied to a spot called the IFC Factory, short for Intellectual Factory of Content. Jones had just signed that lease back in December 2025, and everything looked official on paper. He had been talking big too, laying out plans to turn the place into a full creative hub, a soundstage, gym, barber shop, even a bodega. He was painting a whole vision people could picture. The idea was to build something major for the Let's Rap About It podcast with Mino Face and Dave East, making it feel like the next big media spot. But fast forward just 2 months, and now he's in a dark hallway kicking doors just to get back inside. Completely different energy. When 50 dropped the footage, his caption said everything without saying too much. Damn bro, this wouldn't happen if we was friends. Want to be friends? I don't know. Let's rap about it. LOL. That wasn't just emotion. That felt calculated, like he was playing chess while everyone else watched it unfold. What really made it hit harder is how it flipped the image Jones had been building. He was online showing construction updates, talking upgrades, selling a polished vision. But now, the footage told a whole different story, and it spread fast. He really looked like a boss with a solid plan, moving like everything was under control. Now fast forward, and that same building is sitting dark, while he's on camera kicking doors like he got locked out of his own life. That switch up hit different once the landlord lost patience and 50 spotted the perfect moment. He didn't just clown Jones, he started peeling back the whole image piece by piece. Every post about building something major suddenly turned into something people questioned. The space Jones once claimed as his own became the very place he couldn't even walk into anymore, and that irony didn't go unnoticed. But that lockout wasn't where this started. It was the final move in a bigger situation that had been building for weeks. To really understand it, you gotta rewind back to December 2025, when things first started heating up on a podcast. The Let's Rap About It crew were sitting in that same IFC studio, openly criticizing 50's Netflix docu-series. They called it a mockumentary, questioned the quality, and even laughed at the tone like it wasn't serious. At first, it sounded like regular podcast talk, opinions flying around, nothing too crazy. But this wasn't random at all. They were speaking on something 50 Cent personally created. And instead of jumping into a loud back and forth, 50 moved different, quiet, calculated, and focused. He started digging behind the scenes, looking for leverage. And then, he dropped audio from a phone call with the landlord, someone he referred to as Sam, shifting the whole situation in a new direction. In that recording, the landlord sounded clearly frustrated, talking about unpaid rent tied directly to the podcast lease. It wasn't small talk, it was pressure building up. Then 50 took it straight to Instagram and labeled the whole crew as squatters, putting everything out in the open for people to see. He made it public that payments were behind, and the numbers he brought up weren't light at all. The posted claims had the debt sitting anywhere anywhere from $80,000 to $180,000, with some talk pushing it close to $250,000 total. That kind of range had people paying attention fast. Then 50 added another layer, hinting at something even bigger behind the scenes. He said he was looking into buying the building and possibly taking 50% ownership of the podcast, which shifted the whole conversation instantly. The crew tried to downplay it, saying the numbers weren't accurate and everything was handled, but then another twist dropped. 50 posted that Jim Jones wired $200,000 to cover the situation, and his caption said it all. So Jim wired the $200K over. Okay, cool. He may turn out to be a good tenant. After all, Samuel, if you need me to make them pay, just give me a ring. I'm here. That tone wasn't random. It felt like control. And even after that, 50 didn't ease up at all. He posted another clip, this time showing the studio suddenly losing power right in the middle of a recording. The crew was left sitting in the dark, phones out, using flashlights just to see each other. It looked unreal. That moment didn't feel accidental. It felt like a message being sent loud and clear. That blackout clip hit harder than anything else because it couldn't be brushed off or explained away, and it made it seem like 50 had real influence behind the scenes, with connections tied directly to how that building operated. You can debate numbers all day, but you can't debate total darkness caught on camera.
We've been seeing a lot of 50 Cent heading towards Jim Jones having some issues when it comes to the landlord of this.
That kind of moment speaks for itself. It made the whole setup look unstable, like they were trying to run something serious in a space they didn't fully control, and that image stuck with people. Then everything went completely quiet. No podcast episodes, no updates, nothing for 3 straight weeks, and that silence said a lot. Podcasts depend on consistency, so when episodes stop dropping, people notice fast. By week 2, questions start coming up, and by week 3, it's clear something isn't right. The same crew that once had so much to say suddenly had nothing to show, and that shift didn't go unnoticed. That pressure from 50 seemed to slow everything down without him even stepping in directly, which made it even more interesting to watch. Then February 17th hit, the termination deadline, and just 2 days later, everything got cut off completely. That's how it led to Jim Jones being in that dark hallway, forcing his way back inside, trying to regain access. But here's the bigger question: how did 50 Cent even get this kind of influence in the first place? The answer doesn't start here, it goes way back. Forget the footage, forget the lease. This kind of move has history behind it. Back in 2007, 50 Cent and Cam'ron were deep in a serious rap feud, and things were already heated. It kicked off when 50 went on Angie Martinez's Hot 97 show and called Coke Records a graveyard for washed artists, which instantly stirred things up. Cam'ron fired back. Diss tracks started dropping, and the situation escalated quick. Right in the middle of all that chaos, 50 made 2 quiet but powerful moves involving Jim Jones and Juelz Santana, setting the tone for a strategy that people are only now starting to fully recognize. The first move, 50 brought Jim Jones onto BET's Rap City, and while co-hosting, Jones openly said G-Unit was one of the few movements he respected. That statement alone raised eyebrows, and this was right in the middle of tension with Cam'ron, so the timing made it hit even harder. The second move took things even further. 50 brought Jones and Juelz Santana on stage at a G-Unit show in New York. They performed together in front of a packed crowd, and inside Dipset, that moment didn't sit right at all. It looked like straight betrayal to some people watching. Years later, Cam'ron even spoke on it, saying the group was already dealing with internal issues, and that moment just made everything fall apart faster. He called it a checkmate move and admitted it was smart, even while taking the loss. That says a lot about how it played out. 50 confirmed it too, saying it was all strategy, classic divide and conquer tactics. And that's where the connection really shows. Back in 2007, the moves were about appearances and alliances. But in 2026, it's all about business, control, and leverage. Same mindset, just a different level of execution. Different tools, same kind of pressure. And here's what really stands out. Jim Jones was right in the middle of both situations every single time. He was the one on Rap City. He was the one on stage with G-Unit. That pattern doesn't just disappear. So now, every time 50 applies pressure, there's history attached to it. Jones can't fall back on loyalty arguments when those old moments are already out there, and 50 clearly knows how to use that. Every move feels planned, every step calculated, like this was set up long before any of this even started. 50 Cent moves with intention, and he plays it smart every time. That's what keeps showing up. This pattern didn't just start in 2007 and fade away, it runs through his entire career. Even in moments where it looked like he was taking losses, he was really setting up his next move behind the scenes. Back in 2015, things looked rough on paper. He was dealing with a $17 million arbitration judgment from Sleek Audio, plus another $5 million privacy judgment involving Lastonia Leviston. It stacked up fast. On top of that, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and blogs rushed to call it a downfall, saying it was the end of his run. But that wasn't the full picture at all. Chapter 11 isn't the end, it's a reset button. 50 locked in a structured payment plan worth around $23 million spread over 5 years and kept everything moving like nothing stopped him. While all of this was going on, 50 was still on Instagram posting photos surrounded by stacks of cash, and people thought he was mocking the court. But he cleared that up on Conan, explaining exactly what was happening behind the scenes. And once that situation wrapped up, he didn't slow down at all, not even a little. By 2026, he had already secured a $124 million deal to build a full-scale film and entertainment complex in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's not just talk, that's real investment backed by his own assets, showing how he moves on a completely different level. That move says everything about how he thinks. While he's online posting Jim Jones eviction receipts, he's not emotionally stuck in a Bronx podcast situation. He's focused on building major infrastructure, expanding a media empire, and making long-term plays that go way beyond the moment. The Jim Jones situation, that's not even his main focus. It's something he handles on the side. And that gap right there is what makes everything feel so uneven. Jim Jones is trying to hold on to a studio he's struggling to maintain, while 50 Cent is out here building entire studios as a business. That contrast stands out heavy. Jones made the choice to call things out publicly, so when 50 responded, he didn't keep it surface level. He went deeper, straight into the structure of the situation itself, and then came another move. February 20th, 2026, just one day after the door-kicking footage hit the internet, 50 revealed his next step. He posted a picture with Sam, the building owner, setting up whatever was coming next. Both of them standing there, calm, confident, and that image alone sent a strong message before anyone even read a word. Then the caption took it even further and made everything louder. Sam is my partner, I'd own the joint. Now you're going to fix every door you kick, or I'm going to kick Jimmy. By Monday, you're destroying my property. That wasn't soft talk, that was direct pressure put out in public. No paperwork shown, no official documents dropped. But 50 didn't present it like a rumor at all. He spoke like everything was already finalized, like the deal was done and he was already in position. And just like that, the whole situation shifted overnight. That viral clip of Jim Jones kicking in doors, it wasn't just embarrassing anymore. It turned into something bigger. Now it looked like property damage tied directly to 50 Cent's claimed investment, which changed how people viewed the whole moment. Jones went from being seen as a locked-out tenant to someone being told to fix damages or deal with even bigger consequences. That's a major flip. That's a full shift in power right there. 50 wasn't just reacting online anymore. He positioned himself as someone with control over the actual building. By his own words, he stepped into the role of decision maker, not just someone watching from the outside. He made it seem like he was sitting at the table, where real calls get made, and people picked up on that fast. Some commentators broke it down in a way that clicked for a lot of people watching. This wasn't really about real estate, it was about control, plain and simple. The building became leverage, and the situation turned into something Jones couldn't easily walk away from without taking a public loss. Before that post, this was just a landlord-tenant issue, something that could have stayed private or handled in court. But the second 50 said, "I own the joint," everything changed, and the pressure flipped instantly in a way nobody could ignore. Everything shifted instantly. Now Jim Jones was in a position where he had to prove that claim wasn't true, and that's not something you can settle with posts and captions online. You can't really disprove property ownership through social media, but that's the direction Jones leaned into anyway. Instead of dropping legal receipts, he started posting videos of himself training, hitting a dummy, even referencing The Last Dragon. The caption said it all. Kung Fu Jim is what they call him. No locked doors, LOL. He leaned straight into the attention, even saying he was trying to figure out what to promote now that the spotlight was back on him. That move kept people watching, but it didn't answer the bigger questions.
He posted a video, and I want you guys to take notice of
Meanwhile, Mino stepped in with a completely different approach, more direct, more grounded. He went on Angela Yee's Way Up show and broke down their side clearly, trying to bring structure to the situation. He explained that the lease was set up for 5 years and claimed the financial responsibility was tied to the LLC, not individuals. He also pushed back on the eviction itself, saying it didn't follow proper legal process. No court order, no sheriff, no official enforcement behind it. According to him, the landlord changed the locks without legal clearance, which added another layer to the situation. Police were called, and he claimed the landlord was actually removed from the property while they regained access. That part shifted the narrative again. He called the whole situation cap, and even filmed a full walkthrough inside the studio to back it up. That walkthrough mattered. He showed the equipment, showed the space still active, and tried to prove the operation wasn't shut down, pushing back against the image that everything had completely fallen apart. It was easily the most direct and fact-based response the crew gave the entire time, but even that had limits. Just showing you can walk inside a building doesn't prove you actually control it, and that's where things started to fall apart again. Access alone doesn't settle ownership claims, and it definitely doesn't stop a narrative that's already been pushed out to the public. So even with access, even with video proof, the bigger story kept leaning in 50's direction, and that's why things stayed tense. That walkthrough didn't fix the real issue at all. It didn't erase the image of your landlord standing next to your rival, smiling like everything was already locked in. It didn't make people forget the footage of your co-host kicking in a door late at night either. That moment stuck heavy online. Mino might have held his ground in the legal argument on camera, but online, that battle already felt decided before he even spoke. The internet had already picked a side, and once that happens, it's hard to shift the narrative back. The picture was already painted, framed, and stamped, and 50 wasn't done adding more layers to it either. While all this property drama was playing out in real time, 50 was quietly setting up something even more calculated behind the scenes. This wasn't just about leases or buildings anymore. It was turning into something deeper. He started building a different kind of move, one that reached back into Jim Jones's past and pulled out a name that hits harder than any paperwork ever could. The AI video and the snitching angle started coming into play, adding a whole new level to the situation. March 7th, 2026, that's when 50 made his next move. He jumped on Max B's track, No More Tricks, from the 2024 project, Public Domain, and flipped it into No More Tricks, No More Lies, pushing the narrative even further. And then he dropped a fresh verse. No features, just him going straight at the whole podcast crew. Jim Jones, Mino, Fivio, and Dave East, all named directly, no holding back at all. That alone had people locked in, but he didn't stop there. Just 3 days later, March 10th, he pushed it even further. He released a full AI-generated music video for the track, created by content producer One Kind, and the visuals took things to another level. The video showed animated versions of 50 and Max B moving through New York City, with scenes aimed directly at each co-host. But one moment stood out more than anything else. Jim Jones was placed in what looked like an interrogation room, timed perfectly, with lines referencing snitching, and that wasn't random at all. That visual tapped into a narrative that's been following him for years, and it instantly got people talking again. That situation traces back to September 2019, during Tekashi 6ix9ine's federal racketeering trial in Manhattan. In court, 6ix9ine testified and claimed Jim Jones had ties to the 9 Trey Bloods, which brought serious attention at the time. Prosecutors even played a wiretap call from November 2018, where Jones and another individual discussed what should happen to 6ix9ine after he went public. Now, to keep it accurate, Jones was never charged or arrested in that case, and that wiretap was used against other individuals, not him. But even with that, the moment stayed in public memory, and 50 kept that clip in his archive, bringing it back into the spotlight and framing it in a way that raises questions every time it resurfaces. Then another situation came up in May 2024, when footage surfaced showing Jim Jones involved in an altercation at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. After that incident, Jones spoke with police and gave his side of what happened, adding another layer to a narrative that keeps getting revisited. Whack 100 posted the clip online and straight up labeled him a rat, calling it snitching with no hesitation. That instantly added more noise to the situation, but Jones pushed back hard on that claim. He argued that if you're the victim of something, explaining it to police isn't snitching, and in that case, no charges came from the incident on either side, which made things less clear than people tried to make it seem. Then there's a third situation, older, deeper, and tied to Max B, which brings a whole different layer into this. There have been long-running rumors connected to Max B's 2009 case involving serious charges, and over the years, names have been mentioned in conversations around it. Cameron has hinted in interviews that Jim Jones played some kind of role during that time, and Max B himself has spoken from prison on related topics. But here's the key detail that often gets missed. There are no official court records, no filings, and no confirmed evidence directly linking Jim Jones to that case. He's never been charged or formally questioned about it, and that matters when separating facts from speculation. And that's exactly what makes this whole strategy hit harder, because whether these situations hold up legally isn't even the main focus. What matters is that they exist online, documented, searchable, and easy to bring back into the spotlight whenever needed. 50 understands that he doesn't need long explanations to make an impact. He uses visuals to do the talking. He places Max B in the video, puts Jones in an interrogation room setting, and lets the audience connect the dots themselves. That's the real move right there. So when Max B shows up in that March 2026 AI video, it's not just a feature. It feels like a message being sent loud and clear without saying everything directly. It signals history, controversy, and all the rumors tied to it, without even having to say everything out loud. That's what makes it hit harder, because people already know the background, so the message lands instantly. Even 50's caption added to that energy. I am the algorithm. That one line really says everything. He's not arguing about who raps better or trying to win some lyrical battle. He's talking about control over attention, how stories spread, how narratives are shaped, and who ends up looking like they lost when it's all said and done. And in today's world, that kind of influence can matter more than any hit record. The AI video itself, that was another power move. This wasn't a typical music video with cameras, big crews, and location shoots. Instead, he used AI to build a full visual production that hit every hip-hop platform fast, clean, efficient, and everywhere at the same time. While all that was happening, Jim Jones was responding with phone-shot clips, leaning into that Kung Fu Jim angle just to stay active and visible. But the difference in execution stood out clearly. On one side, quick clips trying to keep up, and on the other, a fully designed digital rollout hitting from multiple angles at once. And that gap made the whole situation feel even more one-sided, and it didn't fade. It actually got louder every single day. Once that AI video dropped, the conversation shifted again in a big way. It wasn't just about rent issues, locked doors, or that hallway footage anymore. Now people were debating reputation, history, and what really sticks to your name when situations like this get messy. And that kind of conversation carries way further than any single moment. That's where 50 really separated himself from the situation. He wasn't chasing the moment, he was controlling it completely. Every move stacked perfectly on top of the last one like a chain reaction that just kept building. First the rent receipts, then the blackout, then the lockout footage, then the ownership claim, and now the AI visuals. Each step added more pressure without him ever needing to raise his voice or get loud about it. Meanwhile, Jim Jones was stuck reacting in real time, and reacting always puts you one step behind. That's what people really started noticing. It wasn't just about what was happening, it was how it was unfolding. 50 was moving like someone with time, resources, and a clear plan, while Jones looked like he was trying to keep up with a situation that kept changing every second. And once the internet locks into that kind of narrative, it's hard to shake it off. Online perception moves fast, faster than facts sometimes. People weren't waiting around for court documents or official statements. They were watching clips, reading captions, and forming opinions instantly. That's something 50 understands better than most. He knows if you control the content, you control the conversation. And that's exactly what he's been doing this whole time. That's why he didn't just stop at exposing things. He kept escalating step by step. Even the timing felt calculated. Posts dropping early in the morning, clips hitting right when engagement peaks, captions written in a way that gets people talking immediately. It all felt intentional, like every move was planned to land at the perfect moment. It wasn't random at all, it was calculated down to the smallest detail. And while all that was unfolding, something else started shifting too. More voices jumped into the conversation. Blog pages, reaction channels, streamers. Everybody had something to say. People started picking sides, breaking everything down, and adding their own takes into the mix. Some backed Jim Jones, saying the situation looked exaggerated and overblown. Others pointed out that even if the numbers or claims were up for debate, the visuals told a completely different story, and visuals always win online. Nobody forgets a dark studio in the middle of a podcast. Nobody forgets a door getting kicked in on camera. And nobody forgets an interrogation room scene tied to your name. Those images stick, and 50 made sure there were plenty of them circulating at the same time. Now, to be clear, Jim Jones didn't just fold under the pressure. He stayed visible, kept posting, and kept showing movement. And that does matter. Disappearing would have made everything look even worse. So instead, he leaned into staying active, training clips, energy, showing he's still outside and not shaken. That was his way of responding. But here's the issue. That kind of response doesn't directly address the narrative that's already out there. It keeps you visible, but it doesn't flip the story people are already locked into. And flipping that story is exactly what he needed at this point, because by now, this situation wasn't just about what's true. It was about momentum, and that momentum was clearly leaning in 50's direction, getting stronger with every move. Another layer to all of this is how quiet some key people stayed during the whole situation. Dave East, for example, didn't jump heavily into the back and forth, which added even more curiosity to how everything was playing out. Fivio kept a low profile, and that silence added even more weight to everything. When names are mentioned directly and there's no strong response, people start reading into that too. It creates gaps, and those gaps get filled with speculation fast. And once again, that works in 50's favor because he doesn't need everyone to respond to keep things moving. All he really needs is the conversation to keep flowing in his direction, and that's exactly what was happening. The longer this played out, the less it felt like a back and forth, and the more it started to look like a full rollout. Like this wasn't just a situation, it was a content strategy unfolding in real time. Every moment turned into a piece of a bigger story, and the audience stayed locked in. People refreshing pages, watching updates, waiting to see what drops next. That kind of attention is powerful, and it kept building. And 50 knows exactly how to hold that attention because he's done this before. Not the exact same situation, but the same style. Pressure, slow build, public exposure, layered moves, and strong visuals that stick with people. It's a formula, and right now it's working again in real time. Now the biggest question hanging over everything is simple. What's the end game? Because at this point, this isn't just about viral moments or embarrassing clips anymore. There's real business tied into this. Property, a podcast, partnerships, money, and reputation all wrapped into one situation. So eventually, something has to give. Either things get settled quietly behind the scenes, or it keeps escalating into something even bigger. And if it keeps going, the spotlight is only going to get brighter from here. And based on how everything has played out so far, escalation feels way more likely because neither side looks ready to fully step back. But the real difference shows up in how they're moving. Jim Jones is standing right in it, responding, staying visible, holding his ground in real time. Meanwhile, 50 Cent is moving around it, controlling angles, shaping perception, and applying pressure without even needing direct confrontation. That contrast is what makes this whole situation feel so intense. It's not just about what's happening, it's about how differently they're handling it. One is reacting in the moment, while the other is thinking long-term and setting things up step by step. And when those two styles collide, it rarely ends fast, especially with the internet watching every movie closely. Because now, this isn't just their situation anymore, it's public entertainment. People are fully invested, watching every post, every clip, every response like it's part of a bigger storyline. And once it reaches that level, everything becomes content, and the story just keeps evolving. And right now, that story still feels unfinished. Even after all the footage, the claims, the videos, there's still tension in the air. Still questions, still reactions, and still space for another move to drop at any moment. And if there's one thing that's been clear this entire time, it's that 50 Cent usually has another move ready. He doesn't rush. He waits, then strikes at the right time. So the longer this plays out, the more it starts to feel like a waiting game. Not some loud, explosive ending, but a slow grind where the pressure keeps building step by step. Because right now, everything is sitting in a strange place, and it doesn't look like it's settling down anytime soon. Nothing is fully resolved, and nothing is completely shut down. That's what keeps the tension alive. The studio situation still has question marks around it. The ownership claims are still floating in the air, and the online narrative is still leaning heavy in one direction. That kind of pressure doesn't just disappear. It either gets addressed properly, or it turns into something even bigger. And this is where things get even more interesting. If Jim Jones decides to shift his strategy, it's going to take more than just staying visible. He would need real proof, structure, and something solid enough to break the story that's already out there. Because energy alone won't change perception. It has to hit just as hard as everything 50 has already put into play. On the other side, 50 Cent doesn't need to rush anything at all. That's what makes his position feel so strong. He can go quiet for a few days, let everything breathe, and the narrative still leans in his favor without him doing anything. Then when things start to cool off, he can step right back in with another post, another clip, or another move that restarts the entire cycle. That's real control, and people are starting to recognize that pattern clearly now. Even when he's not posting, it still feels like he's part of the conversation, and that's a different level of influence altogether. At the same time, there's always a chance the situation shifts offline, because when you're dealing with property, money, and contracts, things don't always stay public forever. And if that happens, the real outcome might play out behind the scenes while everyone is still watching from the outside. At some point, real conversations start happening behind closed doors. That's just how situations like this go. Lawyers get involved, agreements get discussed, and things either get settled quietly or become even more complicated. And if it does shift in that direction, the public might not even see how it fully plays out right away. But until that happens, the internet is going to keep running with whatever it already has. Clips, captions, reactions, all of it keeps circulating, and every time it does, it reinforces the same storyline again and again. That repetition matters more than people realize, because the more something is seen, the more it starts to feel like the final version of events, even if key details are still missing. That's exactly why this situation still feels active even during the quiet moments. Nothing has officially ended, no clear outcome has been confirmed, but the perception is already forming in real time. And right now, one side looks way more comfortable playing the long game, and if this keeps stretching out, that patience could end up being the biggest advantage. The gap between what each side had access to, technically, financially, and creatively, was visible in every frame that people saw online. It wasn't subtle at all, and when you trace it all the way back, it started from something small. Jim Jones took a shot at 50's Netflix documentary in December 2025 and called it a mockumentary. That was the spark that lit everything up. Fast forward to March 2026, and look how far it escalated. 50 didn't jump into arguments. He took a different route. He exposed details, put the unpaid rent situation out in public, and even posted eviction paperwork with Jones's full name for the internet to grab, share, and run with instantly. Then it escalated even more. He linked up with the landlord, put that door-kicking footage in front of millions, and followed it up with an AI-powered diss video featuring the one name guaranteed to hit a nerve. All of that, no fight, no charges, no yelling, just calculated moves and straight strategy, playing out step by step. That's how this whole situation unfolded, and it kept people locked in the entire time. If you made it this far, then you already see how wild this really got. This wasn't just a back and forth, it turned into something way bigger, and it's still not fully finished. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video so more people can tap into what's really going on. And don't forget to drop a comment. I want to hear your take on this whole situation. If you're ready for more breakdowns like this, check out one of the videos on your screen right now and keep it going.